Welcome to a brand new edition of If I Ever Live to Be the podcast. I'm very excited because we have Courtney Robinson joining us today. Courtney, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Whitney. I'm super excited to be here today.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you're here. So Courtney's a speaker. She's a women's style mentor. She's also the best-selling author of Stand Up Volume 3, Resilient Black Women Who Are Shaping the World with Their Faith. She has 20 years of corporate experience and 7 years as a stylist. And so if you're hearing the word stylist, yes, we are going to talk about how you show up in the world, but it goes so much deeper than that.
Yes.
So when I was doing my morning walk and preparing for the show, I was like, I think how I want to start this is I'm just going to do a really big brain dump on how I think about all this.
Okay. I love that.
And get my thoughts out of the way. And then I'm just going to let you go, Courtney, because I was like, I get fired up about this topic because I actually think it's a lost art. I think styling and how you show up in the world is a lost art that we need to quickly save.
I would agree.
And I just did a solo podcast last week that was really talking about really being careful about what we see and listen to on a daily basis. And just, I like one of the examples I gave is, okay, if you're standing in line somewhere, our natural inclination is to bring out our phones. Well, what are we scrolling when we see that? Have we curated our feed to actually give us motivational, leadership training, faith building blocks, or is it just the fluff stuff? Mm-hmm. Even me, when I'm like editing this podcast, for example, it'll take a little time for me to do that. And so when I save the file, well, I naturally myself will want to pick up my phone and scroll. So I try to keep a book beside me so that I can pick up and read instead.
Good.
And, instead of just bringing it, because I can't really do a whole lot while my computers work. I mean, it takes a lot of memory and I just don't want to bog down the system. But when I think how we show up in the world ties in to every bit of that, right? Because it's what we're putting in up here is then getting expressed out.
Absolutely.
And even in my devotional this morning, I thought of you. The closing scripture is from 2 Timothy 2:22. Run as fast as you can from all ambitions and lusts of youth and chase after all that is pure. Whatever builds up your faith and deepens your love must come from your holy pursuit.
I love that.
I do. It spoke to me. I feel like it really highlights what we're going to talk about today because back to the out of our minds and hearts is how we represent ourselves in the world. And this actually makes me sad. I feel like I see people walking around all the time and they are dressed as if they don't respect themselves. And so how is anyone else going to respect them? So that's why you're here today. I've said all I need to say. The rest of the show is yours. Take it away.
I love it. And I love that you started with something so raw because I believe that it is an opportunity that we have on a daily basis that we take for granted.
Yes.
And so the first piece of it, though, is when you talk about personal style, it's all about you, right? It's all about how it makes you feel and how it motivates or inspires or encourages you in a certain way.
Yes.
There's a very technical term for it. It's called enclothed cognition, and it's all about, basically dressing for success, and that how we dress primarily motivates how we show up. And then there's the ripple effect in how it impacts those that we are in community with. And so I like to talk about that because I want people to realize that you're not just doing it for everyone else. You're primarily doing it for yourself. But I think the challenge is people don't really understand how to show up in their own authenticity.
Mm.
Now, I have my thoughts about that from a faith perspective, being that, um, striving to be a reflection of Christ is really important. I don't think a lot of people equate that to their clothing, but there's so many ways that we can edify and glorify God. I believe how we show up is one of those ways,
Yes.
right? So your wardrobe is more than just these cute outfits. It really is about how we're embodying who we are in Christ, showing up in a way that edifies and encourages and motivates other people. I mean, have you ever put on something that really magnetized others and that they were telling you how great you looked and all this and how that made you feel? But it
Yes.
made them feel a certain way to even be able to say that to you.
Yes. Great
Right?
point.
So I just love that style and fashion are just tools that we can use to have greater impact, right? It's a signal. It's a signal of your intellect. I'm
Yes.
just going to be honest.
Yes.
It's a signal of your influence. You can influence people by how you show up. And it's a signal of your impact. And all of those things have some type of relationship to your wealth and your finances, right? And things of that nature. And I think, again, we don't make those connections, or we're just going through the motion every day. But you have to get dressed every day. So you might as well put on something that you love, that you feel good in, and that's, going to show, really amplify your authority and your brand, your personal brand. We all have a personal brand, whether we really know how to coin it or not. We
Right.
have that. So those are my initial thoughts. I'm deeply passionate about it from a female perspective because I know personally a lot of women hide, right? They're hiding.
Mm.
And that can be related to so many different things, right? Just trauma, lack of self-confidence, self-loathing, just not feeling a certain way about themselves. We all have that 10 pounds we want to lose. I mean, all those things, and we use them as excuses not to show up or to hide. And whereas my thought and what I encourage and give wisdom, guide women in, is show up as the very best version of who you are right now in this moment. That's all anybody can ask for, right? And if you have, some trouble finding that for yourself, then, recruit somebody to help you, hire somebody, invest in yourself, right?
Yes.
Because it's that important. It really is that important. The thoughts that we think about ourselves, motivate and drive the things that we do and how we show up and how we interact and how we engage or disengage. I mean, there are all these facets to it. And, it's really about your image in its totality. So the clothes is just one piece, but it's your image. Like, how do you show
Mm.
up? What's your presence? When you walk into the room, what do people see? What do they feel? What do they experience? And so when you start to shift your mind in that way, it makes you think about clothing differently. It's not about wearing the most expensive thing. It's not about wearing the tightest thing, right? It's truly about dressing in your authenticity and investing at the highest level that you can afford that helps you
Mm.
show up in a beautifully powerful way.
Yeah.
And I work specifically with women, but that applies to men as well,
Absolutely.
Um, and there are men that have, things, trauma and different things that, keep them from showing up in a certain way as well. So it's not just a female thing. But what I know for sure is when we feel good and we look good, it changes the whole trajectory of our day. And so that's one easy way to set yourself up for success for a really powerful day, is to really dress with intention, dress on purpose,
Yes.
and dress for the day, right? Dress for the culture that you're going into, the people that you're going to meet, the opportunities and the possibilities that are there. You know, that kind of stuff really excites me, right? And I don't get it right every day. Certainly today was one of those days where I'm like, maybe not. But I love that I really like the clothes that I choose. Like, I don't
Right.
wear anything out of obligation. I don't wear anything because I feel like I should wear it. I wear it because I like it and it's a reflection of who I am and how I want to show up. I just want everybody to have that same sense of excitement about dressing, getting dressed in the morning, right?
Yeah. When we, you hear those stories about Zuckerberg and why can I not think of the Apple guy, Steve Jobs, that they had like their closets were full of all black t-shirts, right?
Right.
That
Mhm.
works for them
Mhm.
in the tech realm. But I
Right.
feel your comment of I don't feel obligated to wear anything. Tell us about how much that goes into the pieces that you buy, because I feel like when you have less but better
Mhm.
pieces, that in itself, like, you don't understand the level of it, that it just calms the anxiety in the morning when you open up your closet and if you feel like you have a closet full of clothes and nothing to wear.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a really good sign of like it's time to
Yeah.
understand your style, and then let's pare
Mhm.
down what we've got in the closet, because if you actually have nice staple pieces, it's going to make it
Exactly.
so much easier for you to get ready in the morning.
You've got it. So, going back to Zuckerberg and Jobs, right?
Yes.
You think about it in terms of they are just getting rid of distractions. They
Yes.
choose to wear their uniform because it allows them to flow in their expertise, right? They don't have to think about anything. They just put on the same thing and it frees up their brain power to be the incredible creators and just businessmen that they are. We can all learn something from that. And I agree with you in that how we curate our wardrobes is very important. Less is definitely more. And it's not about having all the clothes, it's about having the right pieces. And so you do have to be
Mm.
very attuned to your own values, core beliefs, and the things that drive how you want to show up, right? Color psychology is one of those things that's hugely important that I think also a lot of people take for granted. Colors communicate something, right? And so when you show up, in blue, you're coming across as someone who's trustworthy and reliable and those types of things. You show up in red, you're showing up as someone who's passionate, and creative and, maybe a little bit fiery. I mean, colors really mean something. So use that to your best advantage, right? But don't just choose colors for what they mean, choose them also for how they help you show up. For instance, I don't know if do you like the color red or wearing the color red?
I do in spare. It's a
Oh,
rarity. So I think I've
sure.
got like one red blazer.
Okay.
But yeah, every now and then I like throwing some red in there. I'm probably more of a neutral
Yeah,
kind of girl
and
though.
that's completely fine. The point I'm trying to make is everybody can wear red. So I don't want anybody to say that they can't wear red. It's just about the shade of red. And you and I would probably wear a different shade of red just based on our skin tone. But nonetheless, we can pull that off. And so I just want people to be more open-minded about clothing. And instead of saying, well, I would never wear that or I would never look good in that, just explore. You never
Mm.
know what might be something that you're like, oh, this is what I've been missing all of my life. So choosing intentional pieces, using color psychology to show up more vibrantly, and then understanding how to dress your body type is hugely important.
Mm.
That will definitely give you more confidence about showing up. When you're wearing clothes that really accentuate your body, right? And fit is key too. Like, we don't want to wear things that are too big unless it's something that's intentionally supposed to be oversized. We don't want to wear something that's too small or too tight. You know, those things can both signal, you know, sloppy or not put together or something like that. So you just want to dress in a way that makes you feel confident and comfortable.
Yes.
And then, you know, you can just focus on other things, focus on other things. And so when you have a small capsule wardrobe, as you alluded to, less is more again. You have a small capsule wardrobe, which could be anywhere from like 20 to 40 pieces of your entire wardrobe, including accessories and different things like that. It gets rid of the decision fatigue because you have targeted pieces that you can mix and match and put together and feel confident and comfortable every time you get dressed, right?
Yes.
You know what to go to, because the truth is we only wear about 20% of our wardrobe. So there's that whole other 80% that is either stuff that has tags on it that are still hanging in your closet, or things that you just bypass for whatever reason. And so why even have that stuff around? You know,
Right.
donate that, resell it, give it away to somebody you like. I don't know, do something with it, but don't hold on to it, because when we hold on to things that don't really serve us in this season, that really doesn't encourage us to dress, you know, more authentically.
Right.
So take the opportunity to invest in those pieces that you really like, that you really feel good in, and that you're really going to get some wear out of.
Yes.
You know?
When I really, you know, because you use the phrase, we're being honest, like we're just being honest here. We're communicating how the world is, not necessarily how it should be, right?
Right.
And I feel like the culmination of this is you are communicating, I am worth listening to. When I step in the room, I'm worth listening to. I feel like sharp dressed people, you just navigate toward them. And I feel like people will also tell us, it's just like in business when your clients will tell you about the services they need. If you are showing up in your color and in your style and you've got a suit that looks nice on, people will come and tell you. People will give you compliments and say that, you know, that red looks good on you or whatever the case is. And you're listen to that like, oh, okay, that's what I need to add a little bit more of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is so true. And really that's one of the things, I won't say game, but it's something that I look forward to. When I get dressed in a way that's really authentic to who I am,
Yeah.
I'm expecting somebody to compliment me. I'm
Yes.
expecting that. If they don't, I feel like, well, maybe I missed the mark today. So, I mean, those are things, those are cues. Yes, when someone compliments you, that means that obviously you're showing up in a way that is really, you know, awesome. And that really is amplifying, you know, who you are. And that's what you want to do more of. So yeah, I love that. And don't be afraid to compliment people that you
Yes.
see that look nice, right? Sometimes we take that for granted. I try to be very intentional about that when I'm out and about and I see a woman who I think looks great that day. I'll compliment her on whatever it is I see. Oh, you look amazing in that dress. I love your smile. That color is amazing on you. You know, those little things mean so much to people, and that encourages them, like you said, to do more of that. So
Yeah.
I agree.
Why do you think we've lost this? Like, was it really the pandemic when we were all at home and we were just being comfortable? Because I mean, I remember me and you were probably like me, Courtney. Like I was still, even though it was a Zoom call, I was like, I'm ironing my I'm ironing my shirt.
Right.
Why have we gotten away from this? You know, and I even think I even get ready to go to the store. Like, I'm not talking about I wear heels to buy
Right.
groceries, but, I get ready. If you see me out somewhere and I'm looking rough, it's probably because 'cause I'm actually sick. Like, I'm
Right.
going somewhere to pick up some cough medicine
Exactly.
because otherwise I'm doing something. And I would even go so far, even if it's it's putting on a cute little hat. Like if you're having a bad hair day and just throwing on, I mean, I see it all over. It's a cute button up. It's the tennis shoes and the hat and the nice jeans.
Right.
So why have we gotten away from this? Like what's kind of, what's going on?
Well, yeah, I mean, there have been a few interesting dynamics. I don't think it was all the pandemic. I think the pandemic definitely exacerbated the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I think more of it was just the growth of social media, visibility, people wanting to rebel against the system for whatever reason, and people just kind of feeling like, I think there are two things. I think people can either gravitate toward what's happening and want to show up more powerfully, or because they feel like they can't compete or they're comparing themselves to others, then they choose just not to do anything at all. Right. And it's just kind of like, just take me as I am, come as I am, like all those memes about this summer body is what you're going to get type thing.
You do you.
Those things just crack me up because I'm like, really? Come on. But I think a lot of people feel that way, but it's self-confidence really is what it is. It's lack of self-confidence. And so when you do what you need to do to feel more confident in your body and in the items, the pieces that you're choosing, I think it's only until you make that transformation can you really show up in a way that, like, and you'll have some people who they can, you tell them to dress for something, they can get dressed, but then on the day to day, they don't even really show up for themselves.
Right.
And so my thing is, again, it's really all about you. It's primarily about you. And then there's the ripple effect, with everybody else. So I just say, really, you're worth it. You're worth it to make the investments to show up in a way that, amplifies who you are, and just makes you feel good. And I think sometimes as women, we're taking care of everybody else. We're making sure everybody else is straight. And then, so our own self-care kind of falls by the wayside. And so I do see style as a form of self-care. I also see it as a form of self-love, right? And so when we love ourselves and when we love who we are in Christ and we want to show up and we want to represent him well, then I think we'll make that transition and those choices too. And it's not, no one's asking us to be in a 3-piece suit every day, right, or this beautiful flowy, midi dress or anything like that, but just put together, if you don't like makeup, great, and like you said, if you don't feel like doing your hair that day, at least pull it back or, put on a hat or something like that. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can still show up presentable and put together. So yeah.
No, I love that point. And you're right. It's not, we're also not saying like your skirt has to be down to your ankles, right?
Right.
But it is, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, when we step out, we are representing Christ.
Yeah.
It's, absolutely. It's really beyond, what we're trying to communicate. And I think, respect for yourself and that self-love, because if we are a temple and we are his temple, then that gets communicated when we go out.
It does. It does. And so many of us are fighting to be seen or heard. And a lot of that can be resolved just by showing up in a much more authentic way.
That was a mic drop moment right there.
You mentioned that earlier in the conversation. It's like people regard you in a certain way.
Yes.
I gave this example on the style lounge that I'm on with several stylists the other day, but there's a grocery store right around the corner. And so like you said, sometimes I will go in my yoga pants, maybe a hat or something. I look okay, but I'm not like put together like I would normally be. I obviously must do that a little bit too much because a couple of weeks ago we were going to dinner and I looked really nice. I had on a sundress and some wedges and, I was just whatever. I went in, you would have thought those people saw a completely different person, like a star walked in or something. The way they treated me was just like unbelievable. And I thought, do they really think I'm a different person? Or do they know I'm the same person that I just look a little bit more elevated today? I'm not quite sure which it was, but that really makes me, I don't want to step foot into that grocery store again without looking well, because I want to be treated like that all the time.
Right. Yes.
And that's, maybe I'm being a little bit cheeky, but to that point, I mean, people really are paying attention to how you're looking,
Oh,
and
yes.
they take their energy. Sometimes they draw energy from how you show up. And so just being aware of that in the spaces, in the places that we're going into, is that you have the ability to change the energy.
Yes.
Wherever you're going into, right? So when you show up in excellence, it can help boost other people.
Yes.
So, I mean,
where would you say, because I was like, I want to go into your story, but I also have one question that I want to ask first, because I almost feel like it might be the springboard into your story. But
okay.
If someone is hearing our conversation thus far, what is the number one piece of advice that you would share with them to get started?
The number one piece would be to the very first place is to do some type of detox, right? It really is starting to shed those layers that you don't need, to really get honest about the things that I've invested in. Is it serving me in this season, right? Do you have clothes from a decade ago that really don't fit who you are right now? Have you lost weight but you're still holding on to those clothes because either A, you don't want to invest in new clothes, or B, you haven't really embraced your new body? Or have you gained weight and you refuse to get rid of clothes because you're like, I'm going to lose the weight, right? I mean, there's so many different things. And so, yeah, you got to start with getting rid of the old so that you can welcome in the new, right? And that's really important. I think, holding on to things that no longer serve us, just it doesn't serve us. So, yeah.
And there's a duality to that. It's also mindset, right? Like you got to get rid of that old thinking if you're going to embrace.
Absolutely. Make room for the new.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So, Courtney and I met through this cool little thing in the Atlanta area called FEW, which is the Fellowship of Extraordinary Women. And one particular night, we were going around and sharing our stories, and Courtney was speaking. And number one, yes, I had noticed you when you walked in, because I was like, she is classy looking. Nice.
Thank you.
And when you spoke, though, like that took that to the next level, right? Because you have this beautiful, and I think I even said to you that night, like just a calming voice, a calming presence.
Thank you.
So both your voice and the way that you enter the room and represent yourself in the room, communicate all of that. And then you shared this amazing, I'd also say very humbling and what is the phrase when you're kind of looking at life, like how fragile life really is. So I'd love for you to share your story, and then how that because I don't know that I got to hear kind of how all this came together, and about like out of that, I didn't know if you started a business after that, or kind of how all this came to be.
No, yeah. So thank you for giving the opportunity, because it really is a testimony to God's goodness. And I love every opportunity to share it. So I started my business about 7 years ago. And it was a couple of years after I moved to Georgia and married my husband. And I was really looking for a way to be in community with like-minded women. I've always been entrepreneurial spirited, and someone had planted a seed several years before that about the whole stylist thing. So when I came, I thought, oh, that might be the way in this area at this time that I can serve women and also meet women, you know, who again are like-minded. So I went for my own brand photo shoot in starting this new business, started meeting new people, networking, that type of thing. The photographer that I worked with, she and I hit it off, and she allowed me to start styling her VIP clients. And that's what kind of led me into, you know, getting really serious and more dialed in and serving women in this way through style. So initially for me, it was only very tactical, helping women, you know, curate wardrobes and that types of thing. To your point, there are things that I've gone through in my life that have changed the trajectory of my business, how I see myself, and then how I serve women. So at the top of 21, I went for what was a routine eye exam and learned that I had 4 meningiomas.
Wow.
No indication before that, no prior history in the family,
Wow.
you know, just not in any pain, no type of indication that there would be 4 tumors in my head, right? So that was in January. By March of that year, 10 days before my 44th birthday, I was having brain surgery to remove one of the tumors that was encased on my optic nerve. And so they were able to go in and get as much of that tumor as they could. I had a very vibrant recovery, praise God. And I was back to work in 6 weeks. That's how amazing the human body is. And so, you know, there were other things that I needed to do. They suggested a year later proton therapy treatment, which is a higher form of radiation, to treat all of the tumors, because there's no way they were going to be able to do a craniotomy on every single tumor that was in my head. And so the expectation was that the proton therapy treatment would keep them at bay, would not, you know, would stunt the growth, but certainly wouldn't shrink them by any means. Moving along, so that was a year after surgery. And then 6 months after that, so December of 2022, my husband and I are out of town in South Georgia visiting his family for Christmas, and I suffer several strokes in my sleep. And not having known anyone who'd ever had a stroke, certainly not really being very aware of the, you know, the symptoms and the signs. I was very ignorant of what it was. I just knew something wasn't right with my body. And so after visiting the ER and urgent care, no one called it stroke because I didn't have classic symptoms. I didn't have a droopy face. I was talking, I was walking, I was able to communicate, all of those things. And so there weren't those classic stroke things that would make them deem it a stroke.
Wow.
It wasn't until a month later that I went for an MRI, a routine MRI, that it was read on my MRI that I had suffered these strokes. And at that point, now everybody goes ballistic about, oh my gosh, we've got to, you know, do all this stuff and take all these tests and figure out what it is. So, I mean, essentially, you know, they decided that doing another surgery was too risky. What happened was the residual tumor that they operated on, that they weren't able to get all of it, it was pressing against my carotid artery and causing what's called watershed stroke in that area of my head. So, you know, the burden was really on me to be as healthy as I could be, to eat well, to exercise, to do all the things to reduce stress, and to just live in a way that was conducive to me healing, right? And that's essentially what I've been doing since that time. They say it can take a year up to 2 years for you to kind of feel like yourself again. And
Wow.
I'm back to normal, you know, activity, working out and doing the things that I normally would. But I'll tell you, I'm just so blessed. I went actually for another follow-up MRI on just the 19th of July, this past July.
Yeah.
And had an MRI, and he showed me images compared to my very first MRI after the surgery, or after proton therapy treatment in 2022. And we saw significant decrease in the tumors. And I just really wanted to give God. So, I mean, I did give him so much praise and thanks, and, but not in a way in the doctor's office that I wanted to.
Right.
I really wanted to let loose, because I'm just so
Yes.
thankful and so grateful for that
Yes.
healing that I've been believing him for. And, the doctor said, oh, if you see any type of shrinkage, it's really going to be to the tune of millimeters. Well, it's significant. And I'm believing that over time that he will just dissipate all of them. But I'm so grateful and thankful. So, as it relates to my business and my life and how it has changed me,
Yeah.
I mean, I have had to come through some stage gates, if you will, in terms of my own visibility. When you have a scar across your head, staples from surgery, all these different things that really challenge your own view of yourself, wondering if you're ever going to look like you did before. I still have some weird thing going on with my eyes, because I don't have full vision in my right eye. I only have peripheral vision. I don't have the core vision of my eye. The blessing in that, Whitney, is that if it were reverse, I would be considered blind in that eye.
Oh, wow.
And I wouldn't be able to drive. So it's
Oh,
just,
wow.
God is so intentional in the ways that he saves us and heals us and does all the things. And so the fact that I'm still here and thriving and able to, run my mouth like I am today is a testimony of God's goodness, how he keeps us, covers us, protects us, undergirds us, all of that. So I know for a fact that I'm here for a reason, that the pillars, the framework, all the things that he birthed in me during this time for my business is meant for me to speak and to get out there and to share it with the world, so people can understand from my story that you can get through something with God, right? And that it's deeper than the surface level stuff that we really think about. It really is about how we see ourselves, and most importantly, how we see ourselves in Christ. And so he's illuminated who I am in him, right? And he's told me and shared with me, impressed upon me, the importance of sharing my testimony, right? I'm compelled to share that. How could I not share that, right? But also in that, the things that he has shown me and given me. So my framework is all about purpose, poise, passion, and presence. And so I integrate those pillars into my talks, and my workshops, my keynote, when I'm talking to people about image and showing up and visibility, because that's what it's all about. And all of those things are biblical in a sense.
Yes.
And so that's my story. And I feel like I'm still in the midst of it, right? So there have been so many amazing things to happen. And as of late was this latest MRI, but God is doing things daily for me that blows my mind. But what I want people to understand is that he is still doing miracles right now in 2024. He is still doing miracles. And I am a walking, living testimony of his goodness, and his capacity and ability to heal. So anyone who's going through anything, whether it's physical, mental, whatever, just know that trust in God, trust him to get you through, right? I'm not going to say I never had some fearful days, because that would be a lie. But what I can tell you is that I knew the only thing that I could trust in was God. And I was so grateful that the Holy Spirit within me could give me the courage that I needed to get through each day.
Yes.
That's it. So it's okay to show up, and he's equipping me, right? To show up and, giving me the words that I need to say, standing big and tall in me, and, really allowing me to share in a way that will penetrate the right people, the people who need to hear it and who need to understand it. So, sharing stuff that personal is hard sometimes, but it really hasn't been for me. I've been very open about what I've gone through. I don't lead with it because it is what it is. If I didn't tell you that I have tumors in my head or that I'd ever had brain surgery, you probably
Right.
wouldn't
No.
know, right?
Right.
And I'm good with that. But again, every opportunity that I have to share my testimony, I am on it because I just want people to know. I want them to know and see the goodness of God. So,
And I feel like that's the real secret. That's the glow. It's not like a highlighter and the this and the that. It
right.
comes out of the abundance of your heart and shines through. And so, yeah, I mean, your story is just amazing, and
Oh, thank you.
I'm so glad you're
Thank
here to
God.
share it. And
Yeah.
it's just
I
going to keep
am
getting
too.
better.
I'm super excited about the spaces and the places that he's taking me. I used to be a very shy person, but now I understand that, we go through things and we experience things not for our own benefit, but for the benefit of others, right?
Yes.
And sharing, being able to encourage. And so understanding that on this side of it, I get why I went through what I went through because I have a charge from God, and, I want to walk in my purpose, and I want to be able to share what he's done in me and through me and what he's still doing in me on a daily basis. My walk is incredible. They say he takes us from glory to glory. I'm like, okay, God, how can you top what you did last, type thing. But I get so excited to share that. And then to see what he's doing in the lives of so many other people. You don't have to have a tragic or, one of those bad health stories in order to know that God is working in you, that he has a purpose for you. He has a purpose for all of us, right?
Yes.
And it just happens to be the way that I am showing up to mentor, guide, and, support and empower women in that way. Now I can just help them on a deeper level because I've been through something that I can relate to. If you're going through something, how to get to, through that and to the other side.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, I feel like that is a really good reminder too, because, and I will speak from my perspective on this, but I feel like I can get caught up in the little things.
Sure.
And I have to remember that, it really is looking back and going, look, I've been here 37 years. I've been through a lot of hard things. God hasn't let me down yet. Right. I was just thinking the other day, taxes come every year. They have come every year since I have had a job, and I've been able to pay them.
Praise God.
Yes. Why would he change now? Why?
Right.
And there's 9 times out of 10, the world is not ending. 9 times out of 10, the world is not ending. And we all do face those moments where it's the 10th time where it really does feel like, okay, we may not make it out of this one. And so when you do, I think it puts you in perspective that there's always some other situation that's worse than you're currently facing. But to also, that just helps me not to get into the woe as me mentality.
Right. Well, we all have a cross to bear.
Yes.
It's just different for everyone. But yeah, I do think we need to put things in perspective. I mean, I have to put it in perspective on day to day as well. Like how quickly sometimes we forget. I'm like, dude, You just went through 4.5 hour surgery how many years ago,
Yes.
and God woke you up, right?
Yes.
And you're here today. So that pales in comparison to somebody upsetting you or offending you or, all these different things. So you're right. I think we do have to remind ourselves that let's just have a perspective on things that is positive and, including how we see ourselves.
Yes.
And how we choose to show up. So,
Courtney, I could keep you here all day.
I know. Me too.
So before I let you go, what I want to do is definitely let everyone know where to go to book a session with you, learn more, connect with you. How do they find you?
Absolutely. So, the name of my business is Image by Courtney, and you can find me on Instagram. On Instagram, when you click my link in bio, it will pretty much take you to every resource that you would ever need. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn, where I publish a weekly newsletter called Executive Style and Success. You can subscribe to my free weekly devotional called Poise and Promises, where I talk about the intersection of style and faith and encourage you in that way.
Love that.
There is an opportunity for you to listen to the many different podcasts that I've been on, the opportunity to read many of the articles that I've written. And there's also the opportunity for you to partner with me to elevate your own style. So right now I'm promoting what's called an Empower Hour, which is just 60 minutes dedicated to whatever it is you want to talk about that will help you take your style to that next level. And that's going to be something different from everybody. But you get that one-on-one time with the expert to talk about how you can make that transformation tangibly and practically. How we can move the needle now, not like what you can do in a year or 6 months, but what you can do now to make some impact and elevate your style. So if you're someone who says, I would just love that type of empowerment, encouragement, and to get some real-time tips, then that would be an opportunity to speak with me. And it's really all about you. It's really all about what you need and how we can help you take that next best step. So those are some ways that you can, get in community with me. You can always email me if there are questions or concerns, or, if you want to set up a discovery call, there's an opportunity for you to do that, just to chat and see what opportunities that I have outside of the Empower Hour. So I'm open to all of it. I just love meeting new people, encouraging people. And if I'm not the person for you, I'll let you know that, and I'll get you or make a really great recommendation. So, it's a win-win situation.
I love that. So we're going to do a shameless plug, because if you would like to meet Courtney, all right, I have all of my beautiful promotional materials.
Awesome.
If you're watching, I know you can't see all this. So I'm going to give everyone the site, and Matt and Buffy Payne, who you will probably hear me talk a lot about. They are the power couple that's putting on the C-Suite for Christ Symposium, which is coming up Thursday, September 19th. It's going to be at the Ackworth Community Center, and Courtney's going to be speaking.
Awesome.
And we're going to have the Few table will be there, which is how Courtney and I met. So that's an amazing group. And then Kaylee Bishop is performing. I have all my goodies here. Okay, I'm going to give you the site. It's Chick in, like the letter N, dude stuff.com. Just trust me, go to the site. You're gonna see everything that they got going on, and there's all the information there about the symposium as well. So you can buy tickets. It's coming up in September. I'm going to be there.
Very good. I can't.
I'm going to try to get a front row to the Courtney Robinson presentation.
Very good. I'm planning on having a very dynamic workshop, so I would love for you to be there.
Oh, I love it, Courtney. This has been fantastic. I once again was inspired and learned something new. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for ushering in a very authentic conversation. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. To all of our listeners, we'll see you next time.